What's cracking, everybody? XehrFelrose here, bringing you some Pokemon GO Battle League content. Today's video, well, today's second video, I guess, technically, because this is the second release of the day. We're looking at some great league teams here for the upcoming rotation as we get back into the all leagues rotation with some extra Stardust to boot. So even if you're not playing for ELO, at least play for some of that sweet, sweet Stardust. And remember, if you're looking for rare XLs, if you have an excess amount of green, raid, or premium passes, you can pop one in each set and have a chance on the 2-win reward to get a rare XL candy, which is something that I keep trying to do, but I usually forget because that muscle memory of hitting that first set. But anyway, look, we're going to talk about some great league teams. Again, as always, using PV Poke to put these together. And always remember, if you're struggling to find a team and maybe some of the video teams ain't working for you, you can always go to the training analysis page here at PV Poke. You just go up to the fourth option, train, go to top performers, and it'll take you to this page. You can select your league here. It won't show you, but I have it dropped down on my screen. And then you can also see some of the top individual performers, maybe some Pokemon worth building a team around. Or if you scroll down even further, you can see some example teams. So currently, the top ranked team on PV Poke is Altaria, Lantern, Skarmory. Doesn't necessarily mean that's the correct order to play it in. You could play it as you like. Maybe it's a Lantern lead with double flyer. You could do it any way you want. But these are some of the good ideas to get off of PV Poke. So always wonderful to have this resource available. But I'm going to take a look at 5 other teams that I like that aren't on this list, or at least, or maybe they are. I just haven't seen them yet. That I like to play so far this season, or I think that might be good. So the first team that we're going to look at here, we're going to be taking a look at a team with Gligar double normal. Now, Gligar can be substituted out of this team for something that basically just beats steals, right? And poisons. So you want some sort of ground type, typically, right? So Lickitung here is going to lure out those steel types like Registeel, or perhaps something that just did not want to see Gligar, maybe a poison type like Clodsire, something that hopefully is able to lure out something that Wigglytuff doesn't want to see, because I believe Wigglytuff is a very interesting Pokemon in this current meta with all the Feraligators and all the Lickitungs and a lot of things that aren't necessarily just good against Wigglytuff, right? Like this team is a little bit weak against Skarmory, so once again, if you don't like that dynamic, and maybe Skarmory is a lot more common than than maybe it should be, right? Because everybody likes playing Skarmory. I mean, I like playing Skarmory, so I don't blame you. You can swap out either the Wigglytuff for something maybe like, what's it, Annihilate, or you could put in the Gligar for another water, or maybe like a water ground type like Whiscash, something a little bit easier into that sort of thing. But Wigglytuff dealing with a lot of things like Feraligator, the ghost types, a lot of the things that Wigglytuff can beat are in this meta right now, and I think that it's a really strong pick. Now, it doesn't have the best coverage as far as, PV Poke is concerned, but this is more of like an anti-meta team. And that's the reason I wanted to get it out of the way first, because it doesn't necessarily have all the greatest meta coverage as far as matchups are concerned, but it has the ability to really take people by surprise, because Wigglytuff, like I said, I think that Wigglytuff is the star of the show here, and it's going to be able to put in a lot of work against a lot of teams, especially against people that are trying to play the Feraligator and other things that, run Shadow Claw, or people that are trying to run things like Trevenant. There's just a lot of places you can go, especially things like Poliwrath, Annihilate, the fighters as well. A lot of places for Wigglytuff to really pop off on this meta, I think. So let's take a look at team number 2 here. So speaking of Feraligator, the Guzzlord Feraligator Lantern team here, Guzzlord cores very well with these two particular water types. Feraligator, especially as a Shadow. I think that the Shadow is much, much superior in the Great League than the non-Shadow is. I've seen the Shadow, and I only have a non-Shadow, so I can attest that the non-Shadow is not as good in the Great League. Getting off those Hydro Cannons as quickly as it does, you have your choice of either Crunch or Ice Beam. Typically, you want the Ice Beam for things like Flyers, Dragons, etc. But being able to use this team, you have to have a Guzzlord obviously under 1500, so you would have had to either get one traded when it was in raids, or you can get the one, or you could have got the one, rather, from the research that we had a long while ago. It was like we just got, a few of the Ultra Beasts in research. But if you don't have one now, you can try to find somebody who got a non-weather boosted Guzzlord in raids. Guzzlord is an incredible Pokemon to have in the Great League. It's always popped off every so often, and it's just really fun to use as well. Really shuts down a lot of things as well. So You know, you're looking to lure out something like a Lickitung or a grass type with the Feraligatr that has that dynamic moveset of Hydro Cannon and Ice Beam, really threaten opponent's shields, and then eventually take it out with Guzzlord and hope that the Lantern can sweep. Now, y'all know I don't really particularly enjoy using Lantern, but I cannot deny the strength of this team. Just because it has a C in coverage and bulk, it gets an A for consistency and safety. So this team is consistent. It's got very positive neutral play into a lot of things, having that bulky Lantern. You know, you're going to have play against a lot of the meta with this. That's good. It's pretty good coverage here. You know, when your top threats are Lurantis and Chestnut and Diggersby and things of the sort, like all of those things you're going to have some semblance of play against anyway. So that's not necessarily going to worry me. If those are my top threats, then this team is looking good to me. So with that being said, let's take a look at the third team here, which is going to be one of my personal favorites from this season. We're using Skarmory Double Dragon. Now, Goodra, I've just enjoyed it as a safe swap. It's been very cracked for me. I played it throughout the first week of Great League. So we weren't ranked when I was playing this team. I'm going to give it a shot again, probably today on stream. And if you haven't already, come check me out on my streams here, right here on the channel, around 6 p.m. Eastern on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And when I'm not working on Saturdays, I like to stream at 1 p.m. Eastern on Saturdays. So come check it out. It's always a good time. I'm either molding my face off or hyped because we're winning, or maybe a little bit of both. It's always a good time. But Skarmory here really is going to do well because it's just got that energy, right? Even resisted Brave Bird hits really hard against a lot of things. Giratina is now become one of my favorite closers in this Great League, and it's just really unfortunate that there's a limited ability to get it if you don't know how to get a Giratina Origin. Essentially, you have to find somebody who obtained it during the Road to Sinnoh Tour research from the last week of previous season. And that has to be the level 15 research Giratina, and you have to get it in a trade under 1500 CP. It's not the most attainable thing in the world. And if you wanted to substitute Giratina out, you could put like Annihilate maybe, or Lickitung, or other, you know, even Whiscash, dude. Like anything that cores well with Skarmory can go over the Giratina. But I thoroughly enjoyed playing Giratina this season because I was lucky enough to get one. But for those of you who unfortunately didn't get so lucky, then I would probably pivot to something like Whiscash or something else that cores really well with Skarmory. Again, C's for coverage and bulk, and the safety and consistency, right? Like if your Giratina gets matched up in the end game against a Dark type or a Lickitung, yeah, you pretty much lose, right? Like you just top left. But against so many things that are in the meta right now, Giratina has play. The ghost type damage that comes from it is incredibly strong and against a lot of things that are common in the meta. And with a little bit of finesse, you can get some energy gain or energy farm on the Giratina, and it can really do a good job in sweeping. And Goodra has that super consistent Power Whip, Aqua Tail moveset, and is going to allow you to hopefully, get out, the hardest answer to the opponent's, to your Giratina, right? Like your opponent's Charmer, like Wigglytuff, or maybe their own Dragon, something that would have a better play against Giratina, right? So the top issues that you're probably going to have with this team, Bastiodon is very difficult against this team. Like I said, if you don't have the Giratina or you'd rather substitute out, something like Whiscash or something of the sort. Dugong also going to do very well against this team. So just some things to keep in mind. Alolan Sandslash isn't as bad as it looks because Skarmory can really put the hurt on it with that Steel Wing. Once a Sandslash is at about 50%, a Brave Bird just about knocks it out. So it's playable. It's not something that I would worry about personally. But yeah, those top things, they are somewhat, but not super common. The Bastiodon, probably going to be a little more common than we'd like to admit. But overall, this team had a lot of play against a lot of teams when I played it, and I like it a lot. So let's look into the next team here. So now we're going to get into the next team here, which is a bit more of a PV Poke Told Me To team here. Registeel, Mantine, Cresselia. This is really specifically targeting someone running Skarmory in the lead and running, like, Whiscash in the back, right? If they flip it around and they RPS you, I get it. It sucks. But Cresselia with Future Sight and Grass Knot, lots of consistent output of damage there. Can even put a bit of a threatening on the Skarmory with that Future Sight. so they can't just commit to a farm down. They're going to have to throw energy in order to take out Cresselia, and Cresselia is super bulky. Hopefully you were able to get a Cresselia either from the aforementioned Road to Sinnoh research or while it was on raids. Again, you can trade somebody for a Cresselia that is non-weather boosted, have a chance to get it under 1500, or hopefully you got the guaranteed one that was under 1500 when we had that research. Grass Knot is also a legacy move as well as Zap Cannon, just something to keep in mind. Much better letter coverages here. A Registeel lead or would be very, very, very difficult. A counter swap, maybe not so bad. You'd have to play it right, but usually you want to safe swap to Cresselia. But this team, you know, is kind of a dynamic team. It's not necessarily going to be played like an ABB. You just kind of play to your matchups and just do what you can. You know, try to finesse the game out a little bit. But overall, right, this team, again, your weaknesses are something like Cofagrigus, Heatran, Galvantula. You're sitting pretty good with that kind of counters to your team. So let's take a look at our final team here of the video. As we get into something a little bit more, I would say, readable, right? This is a bit of a predictable team, but Whiscash Double Flyer Whiscash into core. Whiscash cores very well with flyers regardless, and you can safe swap either the Mandibuzz or the Skarmory, and you still do pretty okay here. Shadow Whiscash, I think, is just completely better than the regular. I really wish I had a Shadow. I have yet to be able to catch a good one. So hopefully maybe I'll get one soon. But Shadow Whiscash, incredibly strong. Mandibuzz, Skarmory to back it up to beat those grass types, because that's the only weakness of a water ground type is grass. That's the only thing that does super effective damage, and it's double super effective damage to that. So you have to have answers around the Whiscash to deal with those grass types. So the flyers are perfect here. But you can see pretty good coverage here. Like I said, we got B, A, BB for, like I said, you know, I've always said don't put too much stock into these, but it's always nice to see them, you know, not be Fs, right? But the team looks super solid. You've got coverage all over the place, and Whiscash with that Scald is always an obnoxious thing that can flip matchups in your favor. Dugong is the only thing on this list here that would possibly be a bit of a worry. Dugong is very, very good, as well as Jellicent into the Whiscash Skarmory core. Makes it very sweaty when you get to that point, because they're hard to get around. But with some finesse, I'm sure you could. Let's go at Mandibuzz here to kind of help with that as far as the Jellicent goes. But Dugong could do okay against this team, so you're going to have to manage your energy and shields in order to take it out. But everything else, aside from Mandibuzz here, you know, Lantern, you have an answer in the lead, you know, and everything else is, you've got answers somewhere on the team. So this team, again, very solid. Hopefully you guys are going to enjoy the upcoming rotation. I'm kind of glad to be out of the Master Leagues and Spring Cup. I haven't had a whole lot of luck in either one, so we're just going to go ahead and leave that at that. But let me know in the comments what team you guys are looking to play in the Great League. And I hope that you are, you know, you got something out of this video. Hopefully the teams will help. You know, let me know in the comments if any of these teams do well for you. That's going to do it for me for today's video, guys. Thank you so much and enjoy the weekend. Have a good one. Bye-bye.